This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. We'll start in this class about some small topics like dependent sources. So, but actually this topic is to be said to you in the first unit, but at the time you are not able to catch this topic. So I'm going to start in this one now. So now we know the basic different types of sources, that sources will be having an independent voltage source or a dependent voltage source, as you know. So now an independent voltage and current sources a, uh, can be used wherever we will feel to operate them individually. But dependent voltage sources are also some of the sources that are going to be existing in this world. So a dependent source is the one, a dependent source. I will tell here. So a dependent voltage source or a current source is the one whose output is a function of another parameter in the circuit. So a dependent voltage source, its magnitude and its characteristics are depending on some other circuit parameters. So for example, if I can choose some circuits like this, some resistance is there, and this resistance is going to be carrying a current I. Now a dependent source can be like this here, so that whose voltage, for example, whose voltage of this dependent source is further dependent on, for example, it is 2 into I. That is, the magnitude of this dependent voltage source is dependent on current I, where the current I is the amount of current passing through uh, resistance R1 in whether the R1 may be existing in the same circuit or R1 may be existing in some other circuit also. So that magnitude of this dependent voltage source is dependent on another parameter in the circuit. So different types of the dependent uh, voltage sources are, so a dependent voltage source, and this dependent voltage source may be depending uh, on either some current passing through some other circuit parameter or voltage of some other circuit parameters. So that a dependent voltage source, a dependent voltage source magnitude depends on some other circuit element voltage or current. Now second type of dependent source is a dependent current source, a dependent current source. Magnitude of this current depends on some other circuit current value or some other circuit voltage value. Okay, so that like that here we will be having the dependent sources of VCVS, voltage controlled voltage source, a current controlled current source, or voltage controlled current source, or current controlled voltage source. Or simply saying dependent sources are four types. These are the different types of dependent sources. Now the important point to be kept in mind that dependent sources can only produce either V or I only. they cannot produce other parameters. And for the production of these V and I in the dependent source here, they are dependent on some other independent voltage or current source magnitudes. Now, while solving the problems here, dependent sources can also be treated as separate sources, or except for the superposition theorem. We can solve the dependent sources circuits also in the similar manner as with respect to the independent voltage sources also. So that now in this class, we are going to be studying about how to solve a circuit by using a dependent voltage source. A dependent is voltage sources. Okay. Now, for the practical, the practical applications of dependent voltage sources. One second. For the practical applications of dependent voltage sources are like this here. We'll be having its practicality also. We are going talking about its practicality also here. The practicality of a dependent voltage source also. So these are the practicality of dependent voltage sources. One second. Type this. Now, for the case of the practical applications of dependent sources, we'll be having in our subject will be coming across the transistors, different types of transistors like BJTs and field effect transistors, FETs and MOSFETs also. And some more practical applications are like your photo detectors like an LEDs, light emitting diodes, lasers, and photo detectors. And some more applications of the dependent sources are thermovoltaic sensors and thermocouples. Okay. Now, in all of these type of the applications, we require to use a, a dependent voltage source. Okay. The dependent sources are now being used in all of this one. Are you following me?
Yes, sir.
Now, okay. Now we'll think about how to solve a circuit by means of using dependent sources also. So that for the case of dependent sources also, we can solve the same circuit by treating them also in the same by treating them like similar parameters. Independent voltage and current sources are going to be turned on and off, but we cannot turn on and off the dependent sources. So our dependent sources are going to be existing throughout the circuit. Nodal analysis by means of using the KCL equations and mesh analysis by using the KVL equations can be Similarly applicable to dependent sources also. Okay, let me take an example here. Let me take an example. Tracing. Pen is not coming. One second. I'm not able to get the pen. One second. Pen is not coming. Some problem with the software. You don't worry. I'll explain. Okay. So that now, if I can take this example, now in this circuit, as I'm having a dependent voltage source is present here. That is, a dependent voltage sources, a dependent voltage source can be indicated with a diamond shape here. Now there is a dependent voltage source is existing here. Now how to solve this circuit, for example? Now let me solve this simple circuit by means of using our simple KVL KCL analysis only. Okay, our simple KVL and KCL analysis. Now how many nodes are there in the circuit? Number of nodes in the circuit. Nodes. Respond please.
3, sir.
Number of nodes. A node is
3,
an
sir.
interconnecting point of 3 or more branches at least. So that here this can be considered as a single node. Single node, and another single node is here. So that there are actually two nodes are there. Node number 1 and node number 2. Remember the nodal analysis or KCL. So, or the procedure of solving a circuit by using KCL. For the first step is that we have to identify the number of nodes, and second step is that one of the nodes is to be taken as a reference node or ground node, and third step is writing the KCL equations for remaining nodes here. So that now in this circuit, I am just having the two nodes, node A. Let me call this one as node A, and this node as node B. Let me select the reference node as node B is selected as the reference node. Now we'll be having the KCL equation for node A only. And now a number of KCL equations is equal to the number of nodes minus 1. So here the number of nodes are 2, 1 and 2. 2 minus 1 is equal to 1. Again, we will be having the single nodal equation only. So try to following writing the KCL equation for this node A. Node A. Now at node A in the circuit, a direction of this 2.4 amperes is already given in the circuit outwards, leaving the node, and direction of I delta is also leaving this node. So that I delta current and 2.4 amperes are directly given in the problem itself as leaving that node. So we need to assume the direction of currents for this branch of 200 ohms and this dependent source only. So let me assume the direction of these two also leaving the node. That is, all the directions of the branch currents at node A are assumed as leaving. Now, writing the KCL equation, 2.4 amperes plus this branch current VA by 200, V by R, VA by 200 ohms plus this branch current VA. There is a voltage source is there. This is the positive polarity of node A, and this is the negative polarity of node B. So that plus and minus attracting each other. That is VA plus 5 into delta I. VA plus 5 I delta by this branch resistance of 10 ohms plus this branch current is already given as I delta. Now an equation for I delta is equal to potentials in this branch are VA and 80 volts. VA is our positive and 80 volts is also positive. So that similar polarities are going to be opposing. Hence it is VA minus 80 volts. VA minus 80 volts by 20 is equal to 0. And simplifying this equation, for taking out the VA as common, 1 by 200, 1 by 10 and 1 by 20, these three terms is equal to on right hand side and 80 by 20, this will become plus and minus 5 I delta by 10, minus 5 I delta by 10 and minus 2.4. So that we will be having the single equation. We will be having the single equation simplifying this one. This single equation is obtained from a KCL equation form. Now, fine. Now, in order to solve this single equation, here here the number of unknowns are VA and ID. There are two unknown parameters are there to solve this equation. So that here this second unknown parameter can be obtained by clearly and observing the dependent voltage source. By clearly observing the dependent voltage source here. Now, a dependent voltage source, correct. So for that, now in this circuit, this dependent voltage source's magnitude is equal to 5 into ID. Sorry, I delta, where I delta is the current passing through this branch. So this branch current is equal I delta is equal to VA minus 80 by 20 is equal I delta. Okay, so I delta is equal VA minus 80 by 20. Now substituting this value of I delta in this KCL equation, we can find out VA and I delta values. Is clear? So that solving a circuit with the help of depending source is also very easy. The only thing is that one more equation can be obtained. One more equation can be obtained by obtaining from the dependent voltage source value. One more equation can be obtained from the dependent voltage source value. Do you understand this problem? How to solve circuits which are having dependent sources also? Respond please. Do you understand this problem?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, similarly, we'll try to solve under this problem also. In this problem, as we are having the two dependent sources. First dependent source is 10I2 and whose value of current I2 is a current flowing in the 10-volt source. And second dependent source is 5I1 and whose value of I1 is dependent on this branch current. Okay, so that now in the circuit, as we are having the two dependent sources here, let us solve the circuit by using a KVL analysis. Now, a KVL analysis meaning that now that here the first step is that you have to assume the number of loops. You have to assume the loop equations. 1 second. I am not able to get the pen. Okay.
Sir, please close and open, sir. Then it will come, sir.
Stuck అయిపోయింది system. I will say.
Yes, sir. Sorry, close చేసి ఫైల్ ఓపెన్ చేయండి సార్. ఓపెన్ అవుతుంది.
చేస్తాను. No problem with it. It's not working. Okay, we'll try to solve this problem also. So now in this problem also, as you're having the two dependent sources are there. Now this dependent source magnitude depends on this loop current and I2 loop current, and this magnitude of this dependent source value, it depends upon this loop current. So let me solve the circuit by using simple KVL equations. So this is the first loop current I1. So this is the first loop current I1, and this is the second loop current I2. Second loop current I2 here. Okay. Now, while writing the KVL equation for the first loop, so that 5 is equal 5 volts is equal to, and this branch current 5I1 5I1. I'm writing the KVL equation for the passive elements first. Now for this passive element of 5 ohms, it is 5 into I1, and for this passive element it is 10 into I1 minus I2. Both are opposite in the 10 ohms. So that it is 10 into I1 minus I2. Now for the active elements, there are 3 active elements are there. there are 3 active elements are there in the circuit, an independent source and 2 dependent source. Now we can think about the polarities of these sources. It is +5 and it is plus 10I2. Both are positive, so that both are opposing. So that it is 5 volts minus 10I2. 5 minus 10I2. Now the third dependent source is also positive value. So that it is also minus this voltage of 5I1 again. So here the total KVL equation for the first loop is equal. Now algebraic sum of has 2 elements, 5 minus 10I2 minus 5I1 is equal to passive elements 5 into I1 plus 10 into I1 minus I2. Now simplifying this equation here, we can get this one. Now similarly for this the second loop here, number of active elements in this second loop equation are 10 volts and 5 I1. Okay, either 10 volts and 5 I1. Now for this one it is coming plus 5 I1 and it is also plus, so that it is 10 minus 5 I1, so that it is minus 10 volts, because this loop current ID is going to be entering into a positive terminal. But actually for the ideal case here, current should be leaving from the positive terminal, but it is entering into the positive terminal, so it is minus 10 volts plus 5 I1 is equal to passive elements 5 into I2 plus 10 into, now there are 2 currents are flowing in this 10 ohms and I2 minus I1, so it is 10 into I2 minus I1. And simplifying this one for this equation here. Now from the first equation we can substitute the first equation in the equation number 2, or solving the equations 1 and 2 we can get an equations for an I1 and I2 values, in a simple manner. It's clear, so that dependent sources can also be solved by means of using simple circuits also, here. Dependent sources can also be solved by means of using simple circuits also here. Now we'll try to understand this one also. Some more problems in the circuit here. Now for example, if we can take this circuit, here, or now in this circuit we're having one dependent sources, as we're having one dependent sources here, and second dependent source is also present in the circuit here. Second dependent source. Now in this circuit, we need to find out the voltage Vx value by means of using nodal analysis or KCL equations. So that now in this circuit, how many nodes are there? Node number 1, it is a single common node, and node number 2, second common node here. Node 1 and 2. Let me take the node number 2 as reference node with 0 volts polarity, reference node here. But here we'll be having simple KCL equation for node number 1 only. So node 1 here. Okay. let us write the nodal equation. Now here the direction of Iy is leaving this current. The direction of I1 is and entering this node, and the direction of 25 into Iy, a dependent source current, is an entering as given in the circuit itself. And this okay, and these currents also can also assume. Now if you can observe the writing of these equations here, minus 0.6 an incoming current, and Iy an outgoing current, Vx by 50, where it is, this is an outgoing current has been assumed. So these are outgoing currents. Vx by 50 is the outgoing current, and Iy is also an outgoing current, and V1 minus V2, this one, V1 minus V2 by 40, that is this voltage source is. Now from this one we can get that this voltage V2 is calculated in this one as V2 is equal to 0.2 into Vx, where Vx is voltage across 50 ohms. Voltage across 50 ohms is equal to the voltage across 50 ohms is nothing but a current passing through the 50 ohm into a current passing the 50 ohms. 50 into, sorry, I into 50 ohms. I into 50 ohms. And a current Iy is nothing but, now this branch current Iy, we can write this node voltage V1 or Vx. So that here V1 and Vx are same. Both are connected in parallel. Right? V1 is equal to Vx because of the property of parallel circuit. Because of property of parallel circuit, V1 and Vx are same. So that this branch current can be written as this branch voltage V1 is equal to Vx. Vx by 100 is equal to Iy. So that you can calculate V1 is equal to Vx value. Okay, and substituting that value in the above KCL equation, in above KCL equations, and simplifying the circuit, you can get the value of Vx as minus 3 volts. Vx is equal to minus 3 volts. Okay, do you understand this one or this problem? Respond anybody? Do you understand this one?
Sir.
Okay, dependent sources are also, now they are easy, but dependent sources are now easy. They are now easy to understand after studying KCL and theorems. Like that, you can solve the dependent sources or dependent sources for any type of circuits and for theorems also. For theorems also. Now, I will take another topic. We'll talk about one more topic here. Wait here. We'll start on the topic also. That is like waveforms here. to learn this topic also. Now, this is part of your first part of your fourth unit. That is a calculation of an average value and RMS values of different waveforms. Okay. Now, you know the basic definition of an average value in the fourth unit, that this is the ratio of an area covered by waveform to its length value only, and RMS value also we know. Now we will learn in this class how to determine an average value and RMS value in for different waveforms. Now we'll start about determining an average value. Now an average value can it determine in two methods: a graphical method and analytical method. Analytical method meaning that by means of using the trigonometric equations. A graphical method meaning that with the help of the graphs. Now we'll learn both of them. A graphical method can be useful to determine the average values for non-sinusoidal waveforms here. For any non-sinusoidal or time varying waveform, it's better to use the graphical method for the determination of its average value. For the sinusoidal waveforms, its average value can be calculated with the help of analytical method directly. Now we will see first of all an average value by a graphical method. So for example, if I can take this type of waveform here, how this waveform is going to be an equally divided into some portions, and equally divided of some portions. These portions are called mid ordinates. Equal division of waveform into small portions can be called mid ordinates. So that's sum of all mid ordinate by the number of mid ordinates. Simple one is that. So for example, we want to calculate the average value of 5 numbers. How can we calculate its average value? Sum of all of the 5 numbers by the number of such numbers. Like that here also, this waveform is graphically divided into some equal portions. Sum of those equal portions are divided by the number of those equal portions. Number of those equal portions. Now, if I want to calculate the same value for sinusoidal waveform, here. Second method of determining the average value of waveform is analytical method. You know the basic trigonometric equations. So that's on the analytical value, this is the formula. Area under the curve by width of this curve. This is width of this curve. Width of this curve can be simply called as a time period t also. The time period t. Okay. So area of this curve. This curve is going to be divided into two portions of positive cycle and negative cycle. But anyhow, this is the total area of this curve. This total area of this curve, that is Vm sin omega t dt. Width of this curve is going to be changing from 0 to 2 pi. That's what we are going to be calling that one a time period now. So that an average value is equal area under the curve Vm sin omega t is area of this small portion of the curve. Now if you want to get the total area of this portion, now what to do? We have to perform the integration of this small line curve. So that it is an integration of Vm sin omega t dt by width of that curve. Width of that curve is equal 2 pi minus 0 is equal 2 pi is equal 2 pi. So that now it is an average value of that an equation is equal. This is the formula. Or making it in general, making the formula or generalizing that formula here, an average value of waveform can be calculated 1 by t time period t, an integration with limits of 0 to t, or limits can be changing with the same time period t, no problem, and function of that curve, mathematical equation of that curve with respect to a differentiation parameter. But here the problem is that if you can calculate, for example in this case only, now here the positive half cycle area or the positive half area is equal to the A2 half area. So that average value of now this type of waveform is called a symmetrical. That is, if positive half cycle is equal to the negative half cycle, then those type of waveforms can be called a symmetrical. So that for the case of symmetrical waveforms here, its average value can become 0. So that it's become difficult to calculate the average value for asymmetrical waveform. So that for that reason, this formula is to be slightly modified for the symmetrical waveforms as t by 2. So that are going to be calculating this an average value for half cycle. For the half cycle, of half cycle only for symmetrical waveforms there. Whereas for the asymmetrical waveforms, meaning that positive area and negative areas are not the same, are not equal. Those type of waveforms can be called as asymmetrical. For those asymmetrical waveforms, we can calculate that value for the total time period t only. So here the important point to be kept in mind is that for this symmetrical waveforms only, average value is going to be calculated for half cycle only. Okay. Now we can determine another term called an RMS value. The RMS value you can also calculate by the graphical method and analytical method also. Graphical method can be preferable for non-sinusoidal waveforms, and analytical method is preferred for sinusoidal waveforms only. Now these are the methods for the graphical method, similar to the an average value only. It is root of a number of mid, it is square root of sum of mid ordinate square by number of mid ordinates. For graphical method it is. And similarly for the RMS method, this is the formula. We are going to be taking that formula as an RMS method. That is, both formulas are same. The only difference is there in their approach only. Okay. Now, based upon this one, we'll try to solve some problems here for sinusoidal waveforms and some more things now. Now we will take some values of calculating an average value and RMS value for sine waves now. For sine wave now, let me take a sine wave form here, so that now its average value I am going to take in now. One second. First of all, I will show you how to calculate an average value, arithmetical only here. So that now here, let me take sine function, so that this waveform is going to be, this curve is going to be defined by this an equation. I of t is equal Im sine theta. Theta is equal omega t. So average value of this curve is equal its area by width of this curve. Width of this curve is called a time period t also. Time period t here. So that area of this curve for this the symmetrical waveform it is. So that the case of symmetrical waveform here, its average value can become 0. Its average value can become 0 for symmetrical waveform. So for symmetrical waveform or the time period to be considered, it is t by 2 for half period is to be considered for symmetrical waveforms to calculate its average value. So that here I am going to take in the half period. Full period is equal to 2 pi. Half period is equal to pi. 1 by t, 1 by pi, and integration limits for the half period 0 to pi, 0 to pi for the half period, and Im sin theta, and Im sin theta. Okay. Now we can perform the integration of this method. You can perform the integration of this one, so that you can get sin theta can be integrated into minus cos theta, minus cos theta, and substituting the limits for that equation, you can get this one. You can substitute the limits 0 to pi, so that we can get V average of sinusoidal waveform is equal 0.637 into its peak value, or V average equal to Im by pi, 2 Im by pi. Like is okay. Now how to calculate an average value for sinusoidal waveform, and similarly for the RMS waveform also we can calculate here. Sorry, RMS value. An RMS value of sine waveform can also be calculated now in the similar manner here. Now for this RMS value, now for the same sinusoidal waveform here, I am going to calculate its RMS value. This function of the sinusoidal waveform is described by this one. Okay, and I is equal I sin theta. Now square root, it is this is the formula here. So here the time period for this one, width of this curve is equal time period t is equal, it is pi. Limits of integration for this total area is equal 0 to 2 pi. 0 to 2 pi, 1 by t is equal to 2 pi. So this is equal to t, and I square d theta. So here I square is equal to Im square sin square theta. So that here sin square theta can be written as 1 minus cos 2 theta by 2 from mathematics. Here, and simplifying this equation, and simplifying that equation and substituting the limits of 0 to 2 pi, you can get its average, its RMS value of this sine waveform as Im by root 2. Im by root 2 is equal to 0.707 into Im value. Okay. Do you understand this one? How to calculate the an RMS value and average value of a waveform? Respond please. Did you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay. These are very important from the examination point of view. And similarly, for example, if you have been given a waveform like half wave rectified output, what will be the shape of the half wave rectifier? For the case of the half wave rectifier, you can get the waveform output like this. Half cycle only. Remaining half cycle, it is again equal to 0. Now its limits are 0 to pi. It is from pi to 2 pi, it is 0 value. So this portion of waveform is going to be repeating. This portion of waveform is going to be repeating for the half wave rectifier output. This portion. So a time period for this portion is 0 to 2 pi. T is equal to 2 pi. T is equal to 2 pi. It is. A time period for this portion is equal to 2 pi. I am going to take the same limits. That's RMS value is equal root of 1 by t, 1 by t, root of its formula is equal to 1 by t, and integration of 0 to t v square function of that equation into dt here. So that here the time period for this type of waveform is equal t is equal to 2 pi. Now limits of integration 0 to 2 pi. Now this equation can be written as Im sin theta square. Because of this square, it is an Im square sin square theta. Simplifying this one. So sin square theta can be written as 1 minus cos 2 theta by 2 actually. So that now this 2 is taken here into 2. So that now it is 2 into t is equal 4 pi. Okay. Now cos 2 theta can be integrated as sin 2 theta by 2. Then substituting the limits of integration so that you can get Im by 2. That is Vrms value. Vrms value for the half wave type of rectifier, it is Im by 2. Whereas for the case of the full sine wave, it is Im by root 2. It is an Im by root 2. Like that, you can find out the an RMS value and average value for different type of waveforms also. For different of waveforms also. So for example, if I can take a triangular waveform. So this is a triangular waveform. Now its waveform or period is going to be starting from 8 seconds to an 18 second. This is the time period of this waveform. Okay. Time period t. So limits of integration are 8 and 18. 8 and 18. A time period. And 18 minus 8 is equal 10. 1 by t, an integration of limits of integration 0 to t, and this equation is to be find out. The equation of this triangular waveform is to be find out here. So that now this is the straight line equation, is right? This is the straight line with a slope can be calculated as 0.5. So that y is equal to mx plus c, arithmetical equation. So that an equation of this waveform is find out as is equal straight line t value with respect to an axis of t. So that is going to be changing with respect to t, with a slope of this value is calculated as 0.5 with 0.5. So that it is equal y is equal to mx, y is equal to, I will write the arithmetical equation, straight line equation, y is equal to mx plus c, a constant c with initial value. Now it is plus 0 actually, but here it is going to be having an offset value here, so it is minus 5. So that here the constant and is equal minus 5, an equation. Performing the integration, we're going to get its average value. We're going to get its average value. Or the formula for the average value is equal to 1 by t and integration of limits of integration 0 to t, a function of this waveform v of t into dt. Like that, its average value can be find out, and similarly its RMS value can also be find out here. No problem. So, like that, you can calculate the waveforms. You can calculate the an RMS value and average value of different waveforms here. Rectifier, half wave rectifier output it is. For this also the half wave rectifier output. Now similarly for this waveform also you can calculate the its average value and its average value for this waveform also. For this one also you can calculate by using the same formulas. Okay. So these are the topics to be understood now in this class. Clear? Or do you understand this one? Today's class?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So with this your 4th and 5th units are completed. Right? Your 4th and 5th units are completed with this one. Now the only thing is the to be pending in your syllabus is 3rd unit. Okay. We'll talk about 3rd unit afterwards if time permits. The only thing is that you require to practice much. Okay. Do you understand this one now? Do you understand this one?